Okay, welcome to the Christmas roadmap. Today we're going to be talking about, obviously, the roadmap. Dyson, shut up. You yell me. Stop it. It's annoying me.
Execute's going to cancel Christmas.
Yeah. He had a whole song written for you guys. And I'm like, no, that's not happening. So we compromised with snow. I think that's a good compromise. And I made the intro, the start screen, the thumbnail, whatever you want to call it, Christmas themed. So we kind of went halfway. So yeah, I guess we're going to go through the Squadron 42 roadmap and pick out some cool little things that we just want to talk about. We actually kind of tried to structure this show, and then we just kind of went, no, let's just wing it. So that's what we're going to do today. Why are you looking at me like that, Osiris? It looks like you're looking at me sideways, like. It was really weird. Anyway,
well, it's just all the caveats. Like you try structuring an episode where there's tons of caveats because each thing is basically the same thing being reiterated over and over and over.
Yeah.
So on the roadmap,
it seems like it's a lot of information, but it's really not.
It just shows you that they're working
not
through,
usable.
Yeah, improving the same thing. So obviously the things like the scanning, if you go look at the scanning, it's got like V1 through to V3 over different quarters. The AI is just split out into all these different things. While interesting, it's just repetitive information. I think for me, all right, well, I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about straight off the bat then. So the thing for me, the real big thing for me is the actual gameplay. So the gameplay for me is going to be the salvaging mechanics and the refueling mechanics and the new flight model. They're probably the three biggest things that I like that I saw. Without going into details, just give me a quick overview of what you guys were, a couple of things that you were really happy with.
Mag boots.
I think that mag boots.
Mag boots? Yeah, mag boots. I've heard a few people.
Those are cool. I was going to say that I think that the big thing here, and maybe we kind of already knew this, but if you look at all the little bits and pieces that make up player locomotion and FPS gameplay, I think we're going to have obviously a very competitive AAA FPS experience when it's all said and done, which is incredible considering where Star Marines started a couple of years ago.
Yeah. I am looking forward to that because if you really go back to what has been probably 4 years since I remember the first announcement of that and all the things they were going to have, like the little shields and all the gadgets and stuff, and none of that's made it in yet. So I think definitely the development of the first-person mechanic is going to come way up to, I think you were saying before the show, to a Battlefield / Call of Duty / level.
Yeah, it's going to be a robust, cover-based first-person shooting.
And the fact that it's free world and open world and you can kind of go wherever you want, I think it'll draw a lot of people in because they can go make the battlefield literally wherever they want.
Yeah. If you think about the various streamable types of content that are going to be in Star Citizen, it's going to be a huge presence on Twitch, and it's going to draw people in, like you said, from all over the game.
Sorry, I'm having trouble with this snow. We got a lot of flies here at the moment because it's summertime, and I just feel like, come off me! I can just keep looking at your faces, and there's just all this shit going over your face, and it's.
Do you not get snow?
No, not where I live. It probably snows once, maybe every 15 years.
He's in the summer anyway,
and we're in the summer right now. So yeah, it's a little bit weird for you. We're always the opposite of whatever you're at, and I remember when I did Star Signal with Chris and Colby, they used to always freak out, like, how can you be complaining it's cold, it's freaking boiling, and so it's just really strange, and we did that for a couple of years, and we just had this really weird rotation where we were wishing we were in each other's season, so to speak, so yeah, it was a bit strange. Getting back to what we're talking about, though, I guess, Dyson, what's some other stuff that you liked off the roadmap that stood out for you?
Well, you've already heard me say mag boots, and the reason I say that's just so big for me because that's starting to implement getting into ships not only for FPS like pirating, actually starting to implement pirating mechanics, but also proper repair with hand tools, like being able to actually go outside your ship and deal with all those little problems. That's just big for me. It's just being able to give that extra level of drop ships being useful.
A few years ago they actually had it working in game. You used to be able to, on the Broken Moon, back when it was just Arena Commander, you could actually walk around on that really giant drill thing, and you could walk all up and over the surface and everything. So they've had it working previously, and then they changed it and it doesn't work anymore. But obviously it'll come back with the new engine. This is before they had 64-bit, so that's how long ago I'm talking. It's way back.
Yep.
So yeah, it's going to be good to see it come back, and I'd like to see some interesting fights. Obviously, fighting on the exteriors of space stations, or as you've suggested, on the exterior of ships would be very interesting as well.
It makes me think Star Trek First Contact. One of the most interesting battles in that was against the Borg on the outside of the Enterprise with mag boots and using lasers and disconnecting and trying to reconnect somewhere else. That just makes a really unique style battfield. The next big thing.
Sorry, I was going to say the other movie I think of is Moonraker from 007.
Yeah.
Not 007, but Bond. Yeah, you know what I mean. Yeah.
Yep.
Anything else that you? This was meant to be quick.
Oh.
We were meant to do a quick overview, and we've just tangents.
Sorry. I'm terrible at quick.
It's all good.
Swimming. And when we get some time, I want to mention some of the things I was talking with Execute the other day about with swimming, because I see a whole potential.
The overview of that, you were kind of mentioning the whole under the ocean thing, and I think that will come, but I don't think it'll come with swimming. I think we'll eventually get underground biodomes for sure, but that's another whole kettle of fish. And obviously, air biodome is different from underwater biodome, because you'll have your seaweed and your fish and all that, so they're going to make a lot of different flora and fauna, so it changes the whole... It essentially doubles what is on a planet.
But just think, crash ship, and the last big one for me was actually scanning itself, because... scanning is such a fundamental mechanic for exploration, combat.
It hits almost every profession.
Combat support. And the last big one is, again, pirating. As I said, those mag boots were important for that. This is important for that. All those really core mechanics to actually have a functional game, you might say.
I'm interested to know if they're going to let you warp while using mag boots. Like if you can hang on to the outside of a ship or something like that. Maybe not, but it'll be interesting to see how in-depth that espionage gameplay becomes. Because if you can drop someone off and they can get onto a ship and just sit there and you can track them, that would be insane. Osiris, anything else that stands out for you, mate?
Yes, we had kind of talked before the show a little bit about all the ships that appeared on the roadmap and which ones we thought were going to be held back for Squadron 42. Like they said, the Idris was not going to be released to the PU until after Squadron launched. I think that the same applies for the other UEE capital ships, and probably at least the Vanduul capital ships.
Yeah, agreed.
But ships like the Cutlass Red, ships like the Hull C, and maybe even the Titan armor could make it into the PU, I think, when they're done.
We'll talk about the Titan armor. We're going to have to take notes about what we want to talk about, so maybe someone should be taking notes, because I can't drive and take notes. But yeah, we definitely should talk about the swimming stuff. I do want to talk about the Titan suits, because I think that, because it can go both ways. Like, does that mean the Titan suits are coming before or after? Because if they don't do the internals of the suit, it could be after. But if they come before, we could see it. So it can go either way.
So here's the interesting thing about the Titan suit. I mean, we've all been anticipating it quite a bit, but if you look on the same update as the Titan armor, there's an FPS AI update, which is going to program the AI with how to use the Titan armor. Maybe they're going to hold that back as well, and maybe that's going to be something that the OMC use in Squadron 42.
Yeah, I definitely see some... The other way I see it is it's not... do you notice how in the concept photo they had that it's like one Titan suit with a squad of guys? So it's almost akin to World War II, the World War II in space, a tank being escorted by soldiers type of thing. So
or a squad weapon for a squad. Like you have one... machine gun with that.
But you see what I mean? Like back in the day, they used to escort tanks because guys would just run up and put not C4, but you know what I mean, an explosive on the outside and blow the track off. So they actually needed units to cover it. So it's a multi-layered system of defense. And I see that he's covering them and they're covering him, and it all works well. And that's how, funnily enough, really good gameplay in any game, especially when you've got your healers, your tanks, and your DPS, that's how that works. So
yeah, it's all interdependent.
And just getting back to what I was saying about them not doing the internals of the Titan suit, that would be the same thing with what you were talking about with the Vandal ships. We know that the bigger Vandal ships, like when they talked about the Driller and stuff like that, they're not going to do the internals until episode 2 or 3 of Squadron 42 because we don't need to go on to them. It could be the same thing. It's just how far down does that trickle? So one of the things we were talking about before the show was Dyson, what's it called, the Stinger, was really interested in the heavy Vandal fighter. And I said, yeah, but they might not need to do it. Chances are they will do it. For a couple of reasons.
It's money.
It's money, but I also think because it's single-seater, it's quick and easy to do. So it doesn't take anywhere near as long as something like a really big capital ship. But that was one of the few ships. I think there was one. I think that was the real one that we hadn't heard. That and the Hunter. Are they the two that I'm thinking of?
No, not the Hunter. I was talking about.
No. I'm going on a slightly different subject. As in, we hadn't even heard of them before. It was the Stinger and the Hunter. Are they the two that we'd never heard of? Or is there more than two? I could be wrong.
I don't remember hearing about the Grey Cat Sindus because that was...
Oh, that was just called the mining drone, the mining tick. But specifically the Vandal ships, was there any other ships that we hadn't heard of from the Vandal? I think they're the only two I can think of. So the Hunter's a Corvette, and then we've got a heavy fighter for the Vandal. So that was some interesting information to have. So we now clearly have almost a tit-for-tat light, medium, heavy fighter against the humans versions of those. So that's kind of interesting. Moving on.
Do you guys think that we're ever going to see those Vandal ships go up for sale?
I think the heavy fighter we will.
The fighter, and I think maybe the Void Bomber, because it makes sense just on a small scale, but anything larger than that, I don't see them being able to justify in lore why they have an entire capital ship from an Aspiria.
The Hunter. I just don't see the Hunter happening, personally.
Like, Void Bomber's too large, almost, in my opinion, for it, but I feel like that's just a revenue source.
It's basically a Carrack-sized Retaliator in kind of thing. So it is a bit large. It's a bomber that's like Carrack-sized, which is a bit crazy.
Yeah.
The other thing, so the mining drone, that was the other thing you mentioned. So the mining drone was originally called the Tick, or just the mining drone. And I remember way back when they were first talking about it, it started out almost like a suit, and then it grew and grew and grew and grew until it got to this massive big thing that it is now. And now it's being made by Grey Cat. They've obviously assigned it a name, which is also really weird because Grey Cat is what they called the little vehicle, and now it's a company that has made 3 or 4 different things, which is quite strange. But those,
it's very eclectic stuff.
Yeah, I don't think they would ever sell that miner. Unless, do you see it being flyable? I don't see it flyable. I see it as a
you're gonna have to, unless there's a ship that deploys spider miners.
Unless you can,
I don't know how you use it really. It's very awkward compared to a ship.
Well, I kind of think back to the demo we had this time last year. Like, how do they get from on the rock back to the station? Do they just
exactly?
Like, is it essentially a ground mining vehicle? Is it a if it is sellable, right? So this is the theory I'm asking, Dyson, because you asked before the show, will they sell this? And I kind of just blatantly said no. So now I'm kind of thinking of how would they go about selling it, and I kind of think, well, you need to be able to use it. So if you can only use it locally, does that mean it's delivered to your little outpost and it never leaves there? Or does it actually have some flight capability and therefore like need a jump drive?
It's more of a pickup. It's not like a jump drive. It's like, imagine having it crawl into your Starfarer or something like that. So you'd have to... It'd have to crawl.
Bigger than a Starfarer. Have you not seen
it's big. It's going to require more logistics than flying in with a ship.
Please do, because
people think they want this, but they're not going to.
Yeah, Osiris, do you remember the video of it white boxed and the guys walking around underneath it? It's like
and then it comes down.
Okay, so its toe, so it's kind of got like these legs, and it's got like 4 little toes. A human's the size of the toe. Like, it is massive. It's like kaboof, kaboof, kaboof. It's like Godzilla versus a human type of thing. That's
okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So not only would this thing be ridiculously expensive, I would say it would be akin to a medium-sized mining vessel at least. At least. It would be, I would say, at least as tall as the, and I mean from top to bottom, as the Orion. But obviously the Orion is much larger again, because it's one of the biggest ships in the game now. But I just don't... It just doesn't look like a ship. But, hey, if I'm wrong, again, in the comments, guys, you leave your comments. I want to know, is that a thing that they could sell? And if so, how do you see it being sold? Because it would need a jump drive. It seems a lot more like a vehicle than a ship. I could be convinced, but I just don't quite see it myself yet. But anyway.
Why would you sell it? It takes away gameplay. Like, if it's a drone.
The only reason they would sell it is because a lot of people have expressed interest in it since they saw the white box video. And I think that people think they want to have this thing. But again, it's going to be a much bigger pain in the ass to deploy and use and collect than a prospector. Or
unless it actually is a ship, and this is the thing I throw out there, what if it is the medium mining vessel?
I think it doesn't look like it's going to fly very well in atmosphere.
Nope, I don't think it will. But what if it was? So, you know, it might be akin to trying to land a reclaimer at the moment, which is hard, but you can do it. You can't get it off atmosphere. You can't get them off Hurston. I dare anyone to get... If anyone can get one to atmosphere, a video of them going from ground to atmosphere, I'll be really impressed to see that.
Maybe you just drop it from orbit like a big ball and it hits the ground, it bounces.
We had a running joke for a while about me and my mates calling mine the meteor, because that's literally what it's trying. It's like trying to land a meteor. You've got to all the way in. And at the moment, when you try to take off from Hurston, it's literally a half-an-hour flight in landing mode, all the way up to the highest level you can get to, which is about 47,000 meters. And then as soon as you turn on off the landing gear mode and try and turn and go up, it just falls. It can't actually get enough power to go into positive forward momentum, even from the highest it can get to. And because you're in landing mode, it just won't go above 47,000 meters. It just... Think about it. You're going 47,000 meters in just holding the spacebar for 40 minutes. That's how long it takes to get there.
It takes a long time. I've done that, and it's just... Yeah. It's kind of sad. It makes me really sit here and go, this is where these smaller cargo vessels are going to be making bank, is taking stuff from the bigger ships down. Because even if you have like something like a reclaimer, it may just be easier just to take all of your cargo and move it onto smaller vessels and take it down than actually move that thing all the way down on the planet to sell.
The other thing I'd like to talk about, obviously, was the swimming that you guys brought up. So, the underwater biomes and stuff, I think that's a lot further along down the line than anyone would like to admit. I'm thinking, like,
definitely.
If they... There's two sides to it, or two sides to it. They could either just do all the planets and come back and do it later, which is obviously a lot of extra work. Or if they do it as they go along, it's literally going to almost... If every planet's got an underwater biome, and let's be honest, not everyone will, because there's a lot of moons that just don't even have water. What if some planets are literally just water because they're too cold? Then maybe it's not every planet. But putting stuff down there, while it will give it more character, how often
it can be very... It could be basically very just simple procedural. Just have, you know, here's a little bit of coral, here's a little bit of seaweed, here's some underwater creatures every so often. They may be a little bit generic, but I see it like as something that you would have maybe on some of the more, like something like Terra. I could see people having that, or some of the other worlds, but it really makes sense for like...
Sorry to cut you off, but the worlds I really think of, there's two in particular. I do know there's one that is completely a water world. And there is another one that is, I can't remember what it's called. It's like it's almost like a world that has really big waves on it, and there's like little islands and stuff. So they're actually probably more likely to put water creatures on that, because there's so much of the planet to explore that they need stuff to fill it out. But somewhere like Hurston, they could just say all the fish are dead because the water's been poisoned.
Well,
you know, so...
But even with that, it still brings up with water interesting missions. Like I was talking with Execute about, imagine a ship crashed under at water, and you're trying to get out, or you're trying to salvage it. There's all sorts of little missions that you can do, and one of my favorite missions, just to bring this up, in Call of Duty Ghosts, was actually a underwater mission where you had not only hostile divers, but you had sharks. And it was just this really interesting dynamic of dealing with the wildlife, dealing with people down there, and trying to accomplish something and execute.
The interesting one that you brought up was when you shoot sharks or shoot other people, it brought more sharks because of the blood. That was really interesting to me, but yeah, anyway, continue.
But the other thing that Execute mentioned, which would be interesting, is actually being in a ship that crashed into the water, and you're trying to get out while the ship is actually flooding. So you actually have that flooding mechanic.
And that's obviously a lot harder to do because you have to do custom code, and that's my only concern. Like, are they going to go through and do all that work for something that you may only experience once or twice, if ever? Because
I see.
If they want to make that a common thing, and they do really like every underwater has a biome, then yeah, that'd be something I'd love to see. I'd also like to see combat where after you wake up on the crash, there are enemy on the ship with you that have boarded you, you know, and you shoot out a window and the whole room floods to try and wipe them out, and you close the door and they all drowned, or you know, as I said, the ship filling up. These are mechanics I haven't seen in very many games, and if you look back at some of the games I'm talking about, I know ones that had, you know, 11 coders just working on water effects. So it's not a small thing to go say, hey, let's do this, because they are going to the level of detail, though, to have those rooms where they fill full of gas. So the next step is to make it a visual gas, and it fills the room. So does that mean it fills it through with like smoke, and then there are others where it fills with actual water, or liquid, I should say, not water? They would be really cool things to see. It's a time versus reward thing. Like, the work they put in can be better used elsewhere.
Exactly. I don't think it should be a priority, but given Chris Roberts' fascination with fidelity, I think it will be in the game.
I think definitely given time, knowing him, yeah. But it's the time versus reward thing also comes in priority. Is it are we better to get all the planets and just basic level water, and then you go back and add all the underwater stuff, or do you do it as you go along?
Definitely, yeah.
Well, I think it depends on what world. Like, when they get to the water world, I think that's where you're gonna have to have something like that, because I know some people are gonna be watching this and saying, well, why do you want all this feature creep in a space game? I'm like, well, water worlds, you need to have something interesting for that. Plus, too, I really feel like that would make an interesting mission in Squadron 42 if your ship crashed in water. Yep. Or you had to recover something from a Vandal ship underwater. It's a logical step from there.
The way I kind of look at it, in a weird way, to try and explain it to how my brain kind of processes it, you look at all those episodes you've seen in Star Trek and in all the movies and stuff. So, you know, crash landed on an ice planet, crash landed on a desert planet, crash landed on a normal planet, crash landed in water. You run all those scenarios to the end. You want to have those scenarios. You want to have, what's it like if we land on what's that movie? Pitch Black, where they land on a planet and the sun's coming up. In the second one, the sun comes up and it burns the whole surface of the planet. You know, all those type of scenarios. You want to have those as in, so you can have your survival type stuff, but at the same time, there'll be times where it's totally safe and it's just a different environment. And I think every one of those will just instantly have that emergent gameplay because you've added this scenario. As much as if you're on a snow planet, you get attacked by a Yeti. What is it like when you're underwater on a snow planet? Is it some kind of shark that bursts up through the ice and grabs you and drags you down and you freeze to death? I want that gameplay, but you run that through your head. That takes time to design, implement, and move through. And we're already talking about a game that is so large that it's going to take X number of years to get finished. Like, we're realistically, that's the other thing we probably need to talk about, is realistically, this game is somewhere that the single player is, 12 to 2 years away, depending on how well things go. where does that fall for the squadron now? Because I think that means that squadron's now 2 to 3. Not squadron. Sorry,
No,
Star Citizen's
the
2
PU.
to the PU is 2 to 3 years away. From what we've got, and we've been saying for the last while, it's 2 years away, it's 2 years away, and it's now 3 years away.
Well,
I remember Board Gamer as an example talking this time last year, saying, "Oh yeah, it's at least 2 years away," but now it's 3 years away. A year later,
well, I am happy that they're taking their time though, because I'm just going to put it this way: it's 3 years away, but I'd rather them take their time and avoid releasing a buggy mess. Fallout 76 being a good example of a buggy mess. And have it
speaking of
really
which,
polished.
I'm going to have a video up on the card thing for you guys to look at, up in a little info panel. Really funny, came out today. I think you'll enjoy it. Anyway, continue.
Having him have it polished, but I don't think it's going to be as limited number of features as everyone thinks, because just think about it this way. First of all, look at how far Squadron 42 has come. If you look at the ships in Squadron 42, you see a lot of them are almost feature complete, and all those people are going to get eventually, once they're done with Squadron 42, get moved over to work with the PU.
Yep.
Unless they're gonna,
especially as we hit that alpha beta phase that's on the roadmap, a lot more people will start moving over, and we'll see the PU pick up its pace at which things are done significantly. So. I think that's where we'll really start to see the other multiple universes come online and the jump points and stuff.
Something that wasn't mentioned in the roadmap was star systems. How many star systems specifically does Squadron 42 cover? Are they just doing one?
Or the Orion system, I believe.
The Orion system. It's if you go on the what's the holo map, the star map, it's the only one, and it's classified. There's none around it that are classified. I think it all is in that Orion system.
I was just wondering, because I know one system was mentioned, but it just feels to me like something like that could easily have a branching thing, just to, even if it's just temporarily a branch to another system.
Right. It's always a possibility. I think I would personally say episodes 2 and 3 might start to explore other places. I wouldn't be surprised by episode 3 if we aren't going into the heartland of the Vandal to wring their bloody necks.
Yeah.
But I also have a sneaking suspicion. This is a little bit of tangent, but I'll go there. We know there's another alien race behind the Banu, right?
The Vandal, you mean?
No.
Yeah.
There's another. I'm talking about the Banu. If you actually go look, they in the lore they talk about there's another alien race that they don't want us to meet. They're like their enemy or something. And that they're behind, they're on the other side. So if I mean, like, we're in the center of the map, and the Banu's here, there's someone else on the other side of them, right? We just know that. What's to say there's not something on the other side of the Vandal pushing them? If someone was in their territory, pushing them, and they are like hermit-like people. If you read the lore, they move into an area and explore it, and then eventually a kingship comes into that area. So they've basically got scouts out looking for new areas because someone might be pushing them. Just a theory I have.
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
So, yeah.
Rise of empires, fall of empires, and when you look at the Roman Empire, a lot of the initial pushes by the barbarians were because other people were pushing them in, and in multiple waves.
And well, this is based on the Roman Empire, so that is we know that for a fact. So it could be the case that the barbarians, aka the Vandal, there is someone behind them pushing them. So yeah, just a little thing I'll throw out there. Complete tangent. I don't know why, but I did. I felt like sharing it.
It's an interesting tangent, and just along that tangent, it just brings up something I wanted to mention earlier. Where is the Xeon ship?
Oh yes, we did talk
because there's that Xeon animations for a Xeon ship, and maybe they just had those small little area, just like a test animation bed, but it looked to me like they actually had a somewhat working ship. And is that something that's going to be revealed later in Squadron 42? I mean, why haven't we heard anything about that?
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is it's a spoiler. That's the only thing I can think of.
Spoilers.
Oh, Osiris has just disappeared. I didn't realize he'd gone. All right. Is there anything else we want to add? I think we're almost done, believe it or not, before he left.
Well, what are your thoughts, guys? That's the big one. I mean, I would really like to hear what you guys have to say.
I was going to say, I want to see some comments about Osiris leaving.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all good.
Bah humbug.
We were just going to wrap up anyway, so
okay.
Yeah, I guess like this video if you like it. If you dislike this video, dislike it, and let us know why. We hope you guys have a great Christmas with your friends, family. The other little thing I'll add is if you are alone this Christmas, reach out, and if you know someone that's alone, reach out. It is the most suicidal time of year. No one ever talks about it, but I thought I'd bring it up because it's a really good time too. So yeah, reach out to your friends and family and make sure everyone's loved this Christmas. Merry Christmas to you too as well. I haven't said that yet. So yeah, from our little family here in Algrid that's away today. Merry Christmas to all you guys. And is there anything else? Oh, we're on the Discord, and if you want to shoot us a question personally, if you need help with SCUs or anything like that, just drop by, shoot us a message. We're always available.
And we have been playing in there recently because it's Christmas time. A lot of us have time off now to actually do stuff, so check in there every so often. We're there if you want to hang out. We're always looking to do some fun stuff in the PU.
And I think the other thing I'll just add as a little caveat here too, we have been doing streaming because we are obviously more free this time of the year, and it's just a good time to interact with people. So if you are not a big fan of the live streams, we will try to do some recorded shows as well, as we tend to do. But on the Australian summertime, American winter, we tend to do a bit more live streams because, as Dyson's just mentioned, we've got more free time. So we try to get together and commune with you guys. But as we move back into the new year, we'll go back to the normal recorded shows that are better for most people. I think that's everything. This has been a really casual show. I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know your thoughts on the roadmap and what you think that means for Squadron 42. That's been Osiris. He's been Dyson. And I've been Execute. And you guys have a great Christmas, and we'll catch you next time.
Merry Christmas. On the first day
Shut
of
up!
Christmas, Chris
Stop!
Roberts
I'm the Grinch! Shut up! Nope. We have to do the whole show again now.
A Merlin.